folks, welcome back. This is PyromaniacMo coming at you for a fantasy football talk of sorts. We've been doing lots of interviews lately. I've got Matt Waldman coming up in the near future. We've been doing the Pyro Light. Stags and I have been going back and forth. We've got the Pyro Heavy. Once again, Pyro Light, we are fine-tuning, getting ready to roll once the season gets going. No more Sundays without football. And the Pyro Light is going to help you. Later on in the week, we're going to try to put those out on a Friday. We've been getting lots of great feedback. If you want to ask some questions, follow me on Twitter at PyromaniacMo, just like it sounds. PyromaniacMo. You can follow the rest of the boys at Pyromaniac, Pyroman, the number 1, AC. And I just had Pat Thorman for an interview. As I said, I've got Matt Waldman coming up. We've encountered a couple of technical difficulties. As you can see, we are upping our quality, hence my phallic device that I'm speaking into. Very unfamiliar to me, never been on such grounds before. I mean, that's not my kind of thing, unless you're into that. But today I thought I would do some questions. We've been getting a lot of questions. Now, guys, if you've got some really strong questions, we're going to try to incorporate those into our podcasts and into our pieces. That's something that can traverse across the board in many leagues. Here's the deal with Pyro Pro, though. If you get the Pyro Pro, you get it in your dashboard. You can input your 30 players that you follow. That way you don't have to hunt and peck. Anything Pyromaniac puts out about those players or about that team, it's going to get sent to you directly. You're going to know if someone's injured. You're going to know if someone missed a practice day. You're going to know if Antonio Brown is going up against Scandrick and Orlando Scandrick happens to have a leg injury and he may not be in. Obviously, that would be good for Antonio Brown. That kind of information is going to get sent directly to you. So we all know you're in more than one league usually. That's why you can upload 30 players. Pyro Pro is going to be incredible. Not only that, you get the video content, you get interviews that I've been doing, you get all of our content, you get all of our interviews, all of our pieces, all of our write-ups, and the big thing is you get direct access to the mindshare. Not that we're not going to answer questions here and there. Every one. Every question you answer, if you're a Pyro Pro member, boom. We're shooting for about 48 hours. You're going to get a response. You want to know if a trade is good. You want to know if we've heard anything about a defense. You want to know about a daily fantasy play. You want to know if you should start this kicker or that kicker. You want to know if you should start a running back or a wide receiver in a half-point PPR league and blah, blah, blah. We're going to be able to answer you. Guys, we try to answer all the questions we can. The ones that are applicable and can traverse many a league, we're still going to get those. You want 100% guaranteed Pyro access to the mind share, Pyro Pro is what you want. Plus, myriad amounts of other things. So while I've got some time, just did a Thorman interview. I love that guy, Pat Thorman. PFF, great follow, Fish fan, as you can see. Got my MSG Hampton Coliseum from the reunion when they came back from New Year's, the Gaiudi Guinness shirt. I'm supporting my Fish love. Even got my Trey autographed Uno card, if you know anything about that, so I'm pretty diehard. Anyway, Thorman is into that. Later, I got Waldman. I think he's a Fish man, too. I'll be talking to him tonight, and that interview will hit soon. That's the kind of stuff you're going to get if you're on Pyro Pro. Plus, we're going to leak out of some of that stuff to the free stuff anyway. Not to mention, you want the arsenal to win your league draft kit. Version 5's coming out soon. We're going to hit you with version 6 right before the season starts. We are always updating, putting in new stuff, 22 tabs of death. We don't take ourselves seriously. We sure as heck take fantasy football seriously. And it shows. The proof is in the pudding with the draft kit. Check it out, folks. All right, so some questions I've been getting to on Twitter. Some pretty interesting ones. Strange Brew from Twitter at StrangeBrew76. He's talking about CJ Spiller and how high he's going. He's going higher. Last time I checked ADP, he's going higher than Ingram in point per reception leagues. Why is that, you asked? Well, let me tell you. If you look back from 2014, I believe all the way back to 2011, the New Orleans Saints had the highest receptions of running backs out of anybody. That's 2014, 2013, 2012, 2011. Highest running back receptions out of anybody. Okay, that goes all the way back to 2011. What about 2010, you ask? They were number 2. 2009, perhaps? How were they doing back then? They were number 3. New Orleans peppers their running backs year in and year out, and Spiller is going to be the guy to do it. PFF leagues, he deserves, I believe, to be ahead of Ingram. Always a little concerned about his injuries, but certainly this is a big thing. If you can pick him up PPR leagues, he is well worth it. Year in, year out, they are always peppering their running backs. So Strange Brew, asking if he's worth it in a PPR, I certainly think he is. Spiller's going to catch a lot of passes, and you know if he can get in the open field, he can really do some damage. So I like Spiller, especially in the PPR leagues. It's just ingrained into their system. I know they're talking about going more running back, but year in, year out, they are loading up the running backs. Thanks, Strange Brew. That was, again, Strange Brew, I believe it was 76 from Twitter. Next question, I believe, also comes from the Twitter sphere. Now, this one was something I was going to bring up with Stags on episode 6. What I asked Stags to do, and I'm going to do it with him as well, is we're redeveloping our tiers. We are, as wise men do, you change your thoughts. You learn things. Especially now that camp has come, things are starting to change, right? You don't just stick with your guns. That's something ignorant folks do. We learn, we evolve as humans. We try to gain as much access as we can. I go out to the beat writers. I listen to Twitter. I try to go to all the different news sources. Maybe not Fox. Of course, I did watch the debates. Let me get off the political topics before I hear too much feedback. But I try to go out there and I try to learn as much as possible. One guy asked me actually a question exactly what Stags asked me. He was looking at my rankings as of late, and I was just starting to update them. Those will be out. My newest ones will be out for version 5 of the draft kit. And I'm pretty high on Owen Daniels. And currently I've got him at 5 now. You know, Stags brought it up, and I talked to him a little bit. May drop him down a little bit. Stags, that's pretty high. I agree with Stags. But I'm not dropping him down too far. Maybe 6, maybe 7. He's currently at 5. And why do you ask? Well, one, he's followed Kubiak basically everywhere he goes. He's uber familiar with the lingo, uber familiar with the system. It is undeniable, guys. Peyton Manning has a positive effect, I suppose, on Oldsmobile and most commercials that are out there. He can certainly have one in my bank account, Peyton. Look me up. But he's also got a positive effect on tight ends. It's just undeniable. Same thing with running backs. Now, going back, I looked his first year in the league, 2000. That's when I got some numbers. Peyton's in fantasy. Peyton's tight end 2000, 7th, Ken Dilger. 2001, Pollard was 2nd. 2002 and 2003, Pollard was the 6th best tight end. 2004, Clark was 11. Then Clark 14, 16. 2007, he was 5th. Then he was 3rd. Then he was 2nd. Then you've got 2010, Tammy was 15. 2012, a little bit of an anomaly. Obviously, 2011, he was injured. They had Tammy and Dreesen. If you added them together, they were 5th best. And then you got Julius Thomas, 3rd and 7th. So in Peyton's entire run, he has had a tight end that ended up fantasy 7th best or better 10 times. 7th best or better 10 times. That's the kind of guy I want. I want someone who's familiar with Kubiak's system, and I want someone who is with Manning. Manning ups his tight ends. I have seen no reason to believe that it's going to be anyone else there in Virgil Green, anyone else there in Denver. I really believe it's going to be I really believe that it's going to be Owen Daniels. I just don't think that there's anything else to be had in Denver. That's the main guy that's there. I know a lot of guys are hip to Virgil. Virgil hasn't done it. You're telling me Virgil Green all of a sudden is going to come to the forefront? He's been in the league on Denver since 2011. It's just not going to happen. The most targets Virgil Green has ever got in one season is 12. All of a sudden, Virgil Green's just going to burst out of the gates and change? No. It's going to be the guy that has followed the coach Kubiak around. My money is on Owen Daniels because Peyton Manning undoubtedly does well for his tight ends. That's why I've got some Owen Daniels love. Next question. We've got a next question coming from... Don't see the name jumping up here, but let's see if I can scroll and find it. Okay. Kevin Morelli. He is on Twitter at KEVINMORRIELLO. Give him a follow, folks. He asked me, PyromaniacMo, if you had to pick a quarterback, wide receiver, and a running back stack from the same team for a season, which group would you go? And then, of course, hashtag PyroLight. Guys, if you want to get a question on PyroLight where we can discuss it, just give me a hashtag PyroLight. This was an interesting question. Now, I'm all about stacking, and for those of you that aren't familiar with stacking means you're drafting a quarterback and a wide receiver. You kind of double up. Quarterback hits the wide receiver, boom, boom, get points both categories. Now, I'm not stacking crazy. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going all over the place, right? I want power in numbers. I want teams that are going to be able to do it. I'm going to stack a Denver. I'm going to stack an Indy, a Pitt, a Green Bay. Not really looking to stack Jacksonville or some of the lesser-known teams out there, right? Also, it brings up a thing, stacking. I like stacking wide receiver and quarterback. Sometimes I'm a little adverse to putting a wide receiver and a running back. They can kind of tend to cannibalize each other. There's only so many touchdowns to go around. Now, if a quarterback throws a touchdown pass to a wide receiver, they both get points. Running back takes a dive, he brings it in. If you've got a wide receiver on that team, he's not getting points. Not to say that I'm going to avoid that at all costs. Look at our power and numbers charts. I have no problem going with Demaryius Thomas and C.J. Anderson. I think there is enough goo to go around that I'm going to be happy. On the other hand, there's no way I'm taking a Yeldon and a Robinson from Jacksonville. That's some cannibalization that I don't want to get into, right? That's a plane crash over the Andes. Nothing goes well there. But give me guys on Indy, Denver, Pitt, Green Bay any day. Now, usually I do the wide receiver quarterback, but I thought it was an interesting question. And if I'm going to pick quarterback, wide receiver, running back, I thought about it. I got to go Green Bay. Rodgers, he's in my top tier for a quarterback. Lacey, he's in my top tier for a running back. Nelson, I got him, I believe, in my tier number 2. So I looked up all those teams Pitt's pretty darn close, but Roethlisberger's down a little bit. Indy, I love. Gore's down a little bit, and they got a lot of mouths to feed. Denver, I love too, but I don't love Peyton as much. If I'm picking one team, give me Green Bay. Give me Nelson, Lacey, and Rodgers all day if I'm picking one team to go 3 guys. Next question is from my boy Josh Van Gundy. He's got a keeper question, $200 budget. He gives me some stats here, 10-team PPR league. Now, he gives me the numbers. Dollar here, dollar there, dollar here, dollar there. Some auction leagues are 100, 200. I've got a budget, and one of mine is 300. That doesn't matter. You got to break it down into percentages. Now, the way I look at it, my rule of thumb, if I'm looking for a top-tier guy, 35% maybe I'm going to go. On waiver wires, a lot of times if I think it's going to be a top-tier guy, best waiver wire out there, I'm going to go 40%. I've got no problem if I'm going to go get AP, I'll spend 40% on AP. Someone like that, because I kind of believe a stars and a scrubs on the auction league. Give me a bunch of running back lottery tickets, but I want high-performing wide receivers. They're not as volatile. I want high-performing tight ends or quarterbacks as well, stars and scrubs. But think of it not as dollar value, think of it as percentages. 30 to 40 for the top tier guys, 20 for top number 2, maybe 10 for number 3, and then you've got $1 to $5 on those flyers. So his question, he's got Lamar Miller for Lamar Miller at $3. This is a $200 budget. Travis Kelce at 1. Julio Jones at 30. So now if you break that down, Julio Jones, you're talking 15%. That's great value. Once again, number 1 guy, I've got no problem going 35% on a number 1 guy. Here we're only talking 15%. It's a great position, wide receiver, not as volatile as the running backs. I like that. Now, that said, that's a lot of money. And I might even keep it between Kelce and JJ, perhaps. Depends on the rest of your team. But if you keep it Kelce, that's a tier 2 tight end for only 5% of your budget. You're going to be able to outbid a lot of guys if guys are going super heavy. You're going to have a lot of money left. Chances are you should be able to end up with a C.J. Anderson or a Jeremy Hill, somebody like that. And wide receiver is so deep. I think that's just a fantastic price on Kelce. Also, Lamar Miller, I mean, that's a tough one. I don't really think you can go wrong there. If you put a gun to my head, though, 15% for Julio is a pretty good deal. 15% on Julio. I like that. Next up, we've got, losing his name, I apologize. Hopefully I come across it here. 8-team, 5 keepers. PPR. Points per rush attempts, it looks like, and points per completion. 2-quarterback league. Let me say, folks, 2-quarterback league changes it for me. I want one of the top 7, and then I'm happy with a Carson Palmer or Sam Bradford, something like that. Quarterbacks score too many points. Top 5 quarterbacks last year all scored over 300. No other position scored that many points. The top 1 running back was something like 294. Top 5 quarterbacks over 300. I want one of those guys. If you ask me, I bet you there's about 7 or 8 guys that could easily do that this year. Give me those guys. The deal is when you've got 12 quarterbacks, the difference is marginal. When you're talking the top 5 quarterbacks versus 20, 21, and 22, that is a huge scoring difference. 2-quarterback leagues, I want a top 7 QB. You want the other end of the coin on this, go ask Stags. He takes a little bit different approach on that. I believe if you listen to, I'm going to go ahead and say episode 4, we get into that a bit. So anyway, it's a 2-quarterback league. I definitely want a quarterback that's going to perform. Now, he gives me some options here. Keep in mind, too, folks, this is 3 running back, 4 wide receiver. 4 wide receivers is a lot, so you got to lock up some of those guys. Now, he can get, it looks like Antonio Brown for the 3rd pick, Tannehill for the 9th pick, Big Ben for the 11th, Olsen for the 12th, Miller for the 15th. Then he says Murray for pick 1.06. I'm guessing that's the 6th pick. Then he's got Hill for 2.03. Then he's got Demarius 3.03. Latavius Murray 4.08. Eli 5.06, meaning 5th round, 6th pick. Matthews 7.6. That is Jordan Matthews. Ryan Matthews, 10.3. Bolden, 13.03. So let me say the guys that he's thinking about here. Early round, first rounders. He can get Antonio Brown. He can get Tannehill. He can get Big Ben. Looks like early second round he can get Olsen, Miller, and Jeremy Hill. Also first round he can get Murray. 3rd round he can get Demarius. 4th round Latavius. 5th round Eli. 7th round, Jordan Matthews. 10th round, Ryan Matthews. Bolden in the 13. So you're going to pick 5. So here's my thoughts. I want to lock up one of those QBs. Big Ben, to me, has a high ceiling. They're aiming for 30 points this year. But it's a high price to pay. Big Ben, 11th pick overall. My thing, grab Eli 5 rounds later. Yeah, Big Ben's probably going to have some more points, but I think the difference is going to be marginal. And think of those guys that you can get in the 1st round versus the 5th round. Don't always just think of it as Eli in the 5th, Big Ben in the 1st. Think of it as the running back you can get in the 1st plus Eli in the 5th versus Big Ben in the 1st and the running back you're going to get in the 5th. Add those 2 numbers, what's going to work out better? I think Eli and Roethlisberger are close enough, and I want that higher-end RB. Usually the first 2 round RBs are going to give you the highest amount of return. After that, it can get pretty sketchy. So I think Eli is just too good of a value to pass up, although I wouldn't blame you for Big Ben. I just think it's going to be marginal. The difference is going to be marginal. Let's go with Eli. Down the line, after you get Eli, you're going to be able to grab a Carson Palmer, a Bradford, a Bridgewater. You can stream. I love streaming. You got to be on top of it. You got to be able to have a fab budget, and you've got to be able to log on at least once a week and watch it. Can't do that. Streaming's not for you. But it is a wonderful strategy that is really highly successful. You want to know more about streaming, check out JJ Zachariason, late round QB. He does an excellent job of explaining it far better than I do. Folks, I'm just lucky if I wake up in the morning and I put on pants. So after I've lined up my quarterback, that leaves me with 4 positions. Remember, it's 4 wide receivers, 3 running backs. Well, probably going to go 2 and 2 here. Wide receivers are deep, that's for sure, but you got some big names here and some good value. Jordan Matthews in the 7th round, 6th pick, that is great freaking value. I'm taking that. And Demarius in the 3rd round, boom, lock me up for Jordan in the 7th, Demarius in the 3rd. Then from there, Jeremy Hill, for God's sakes. Don't tell my wife, but I've got a Jeremy Hill poster, in the closet that I flex in front of. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, I wear the freaking pants in my household. Whatever you do, just don't tell my wife that, please. But I love Jeremy Hill. Give me him, and then it's kind of down between DeMarco and Latavius. I'm not as down on DeMarco Murray as many say. I think with Kelly, there's going to be lots of opportunity. He's going to be spelled. They've got 2 other decent backs there. And I know he's got a lot of tread on the tires, but PFF rated the Eagles line better than Dallas. Sometimes I disagree with PFF. I mean, I've got eyes. Dallas was dang good. But at the very least, they're 2nd. So if he was doing what he did in Dallas, I think he can do what he did almost as well in Philly. Plus, he's got Sproles and Ryan Matthews to spell him, so I don't think they're going to overuse him. It's a spread offense. They've got Aggie. They've got Jordan Matthews. They've got, Selleck is leading the pack right now, but Ertz. They got Bradford. I'm liking Murray more and more. Now, you're scared of the tread on the tires. Can't go wrong with Latavius Murray in the 4th round. Speaking of Murray, I talked about this a little while ago, but just to get it back to you, I don't understand why Hyde is going so much higher than Murray. Hyde, last year, 83 carries. Murray, 82. Hyde, total yards per carry, 4. Murray, 5.2. Yards per carry on double-digit games, Murray was over a yard better with 3.8 yards per carry on double-digit games. Yards per carry for Hyde on double-digit games, 2.67. And this cat is going before Murray. Tisk ticks. I don't know what's going on. Breakaway percentage for Hyde, an abysmal 17.4%. I've got a 1-year-old son. He gets away from me more than 17.4% of the time. Granted, I'm distracted. I got a lot of things going on in my head. I'm calculating the distance to the sun. I'm working on fantasy football. I'm trying to keep you people happy. And folks, you don't get this physique by just sitting around and eating nachos. Well, okay, I guess you do. Plus, we've got 15-yard rushes, 3 for Hyde last year. 3. Murray, 8. 20-yard rushes for Hyde, 1. Longest rush of the year for Carlos Hyde, 27 yards. Murray, 4 rushes that went for at least 20 yards, and he even had one that went for 40. And for some unknown reason, Hyde is going first. So I've got no problem. Back to the original question on that last running back. If you think DeMarco Murray's got a lot of tread on his tires, again, I love the Chip Kelly situation. I love all the weapons they have there. I don't think he's going to get overused. Fantastic offensive line. But Murray's got a ton of upside. I could totally see going with him there. Moving on to the next question. Keith Schultz, my boy, KWSCHULTZ. I believe I mentioned this before, but we got it back and forth in a great Twitter conversation. And guys, when you're out there on Twitter, don't look to troll. But if you want to get in a great, and by no means did Keith do this, but if you want to get in a great conversation, I just love talking ball. Socrates discovered he was the wisest man on earth because he realized he knew nothing. Therefore, he has the greatest capacity to learn. Folks, I'm 38 years old, and I'm just trying to figure out which questions to ask. So I know nothing. I'm willing to share my opinions, some stats I've dug up, but I love learning from you guys. Hit me up. PyromaniacMo on Twitter. I love shooting the breeze. I love talking football with folks. This is exactly what Keith and I did. We were going back and forth. Essentially, he was talking about Foster. With Arian Foster out, says Keith, basically, at least half the season, he was wondering if that hurts or helps Nuke Hopkins. Well, is he going to get more looks because of the loss of Foster? Now, I don't think so. Here's my 2 cents. I said the defenses are not going to crowd the box. They did it with Foster, which opened up the field for Nuke Hopkins. That spelled more open coverage for him. That's not going to happen. Plus, we've got a couple of subpar quarterbacks. Hopkins last year only had 13 red zone targets. Guys, there were 30 different wide receivers that had 14 red zone targets or more. 30. Now they lose Foster, who was second in yards per game. Last season, Houston ranked 30th in pass attempts. Not only that, Alfred Blue, who is sort of slated to step up, he was ranked in the bottom for pass protection. Out of 125 running backs rated by PFF for pass protection, he was the 25th worst pass protector. He's not going to be out there as much. If he is the quarterback, whoever it is, I think it's between Hoyer and Mallett, he's going to have some rough days. I'm kind of thinking Hoyer. I like what he did in Cleveland. We'll see if the line gives him enough protection. So blue can't pass protect. Defenses aren't going to respect Hoyer or Maill or the running back. Therefore, they're going to be able to key in on blue. I don't think blue saw as much coverage because everybody was focused on Foster. Hence, he had a better season. Now they're going to be able to devote more coverage to him, and he's the best weapon on the team, and I don't think he's going to have the same type of openness he had last year, and I don't think he's going to perform as well as he did last year. He's not going to be able to open it up. Blue, by the way, had a 3.1 yards per carry average. He's not keeping defenses honest. The Foster injury does not bode well, and I'm not even convinced that they've got the starting running back on the team as of right now. It's looking like we are about wrapping up here, folks. Although I did have one of my favorite tweets from this week. It came out. I got two more things for you. I was going to bring this up on episode 6. You'll probably hear me repeat it. But one of the tweets I loved from this week, I tweeted it out. Jamal Charles, 2 years ago, 7 games where he rushed for 100 yards or more. Fantastic. Last year, 4 games where he rushed for 100 yards or more. Last year, uno. 2012, Jamal Charles rushed for 100 yards or more 7 times. 2013, rushed for 100 yards or more 4 times. Last year, Jamal Charles rushed for 100 yards or more once. With Reed there, I don't think they're going to give him as many looks as they did in the past. Now Davis, both of them are under contract for at least 2 more years. I don't think they are going to push either of them. I think it's going to be more of a timeshare than we are used to. I don't think Jamal is going to be what a lot of people are thinking. Also, last thing, camp battles, Steelers wide receivers. Everybody was all hip on Martavis Bryant. Let me break down some few things for you. One, Big Ben just came out and said Wheaton is going to be the number 2. He also said Bryant on 3 wide receiver sets is going to move in and play outside. And on those 3 wide receiver sets, Wheaton's going to bump over to the slot position. PFF last year, Wheaton played in 507 passing snaps. Bryant, 300 less. 208 passing snaps. Now, I believe the rest of this comes from FF Today. Wheaton last year, 86 targets, almost half less. Bryant was 48. Wheaton, 53 receptions. Bryant, 26. Wheaton, 644 yards. Bryant, 549. Wheaton, 2 receiving TDs. Bryant, 8. That's the big thing. That's what put him over the edge. Red zone targets was only 2 for Wheaton, and he had 1 red zone TD. 9 for Bryant and 4 red zone. That's what puts him over the edge, is the TDs and the red zone looks. They finished the season 59th for Wheaton, 41st for Bryant. Current ADP, Wheaton is over 227. That's basically undrafted. If you are in a 12-man, 16-round draft, ADP for Bryant is end of the 6th round. That is a huge discrepancy for a guy in Wheaton who's basically doubling him in stats except for TDs. TD is one of the most unpredictable stats that you can figure. You just don't know what's going to come. It changes from year to year. Look at Vincent Jackson. He averaged 8. All of a sudden last year, boom, 2. Now, yeah, I still think Bryant's going to save you with some touchdowns, but the fact that they are putting Wheaton as the number 2, I think that's going to hurt Bryant's value. I think he's currently being overdrafted. I don't think a lot of people are going to realize this. Hey, man, I loved Bryant. He was on a lot of my teams. That I'm starting to change. I've dropped that as of recently. Folks, I'm done. Went a little longer than I thought. I was trying to answer some questions in about 30 minutes, but hey, you came for the fantasy questions and you stayed for the nonsense. As always, Pyromaniac, we are putting out the heavy podcast. We are putting out the light podcast. We are bringing in new writers into the fold. We've got Pyro Pro. We've got the free content. We've got the draft kit. I've been doing interviews. Stay tuned for my Matt Waldman interview. As I said, the Pat Thorman from PFF is just fantastic. I'm real excited about it. All kinds of things happening. If you want to reach out to me, PyromaniacMo on Twitter, PyromaniacMo. Guys, it's been a pleasure. I'm going to see you soon, and I can't wait to keep the goo a-slinging. Catch you on the flip side.